Howdy howdy. So wanted to make a video going through how to create cuts within Spline. So I found this light switch file on Printables over here by Stephen E. Collins and downloaded the 3MF file, brought that into Bamboo Studio where I then exported it as an STL file. Then I can use that STL file in Spline, and you export to STL by double clicking. Then down within the menu, let's see if I can get it up here. There's an export as STL. Cool, so let's hop into Spline. So I uploaded the STL file so that I could see relatively what the sizes are on here. So if I have this selected, I can see in the shape that I have an X width of, let's see, 1272.73, and then a Y, which is the height because it's laying down right now, is at 100, and the Z is 2072.73. Okay, cool. So I'm going to look at a top view here, and what I'll do is I'm going to add in a new cube element. And so I'm going to match up the corners here as close as I can, and then drag it to size it to the same size roughly of this light switch here. So I'll make sure it's snapping to objects. That way it's just a little bit easier to get that exact size there. And you'll see that there's a little orange indicator when something is snapping to the right size. Cool. And then I'm going to change to this view here because that looks a little tall. And using this tool here, I'll drag it down and bring it to about the same height as this current light switch here. So it's close. It's nice because you can grab multiple elements to change sizes, like directly on these edges, or if you're changing in both directions, you can use this tool right here. But there we go, I've got it to about the same height. And now we want to create some holes within this. So I'm going to bring it over here just so I can see it a little more easily. And it looks like we have like an angle cut that goes into it as well as these circular cuts. So what I'm going to do is go to the add tool, and I want to grab a cylinder, and I'm going to hold in shift as I'm dragging this to make sure it's a consistent size. And I'm going to zoom in on the area because I would like to match this up to this hole here, and looks about right. And I'm holding in shift and alt to size directly from the center, and yeah, it's getting pretty close. I'm going to remove any of these corners on here and get it a little bit bigger. There we go. Let's say that that's about right. And I'm going to change the color just so we can more easily see this. So let's make the slice a red color. There we go. And to create a slice within Spline, what you do is you select your element that you want to use as the cut shape on top, and make sure it's above the element you want to cut a slice into. And then you hold in, or then you move the element where you want the cut to be. So let's quickly copy and paste this and get it to where it is at both sides for the hole, and make sure that it's going all the way through. So I'm holding in shift and dragging both of these down, and that way we can just make sure that it's making a cut all the way through when we use it. So then from there, what I'll do is I will line this back up right there. Cool. And we want to connect these two cylinder items because we're using them to make slices. So if you hold in shift, then on the right hand side you'll see there's a Boolean modifier. So there's a slice setting or an intersection or a merge. So in this case we're just going to merge the two together and essentially create a union. So there's union, intersection, subtraction. So let's create a union. There we go. And let's reselect that. And now what we're going to do is create that slice. So we have our boolean selected here. These are 2 cuts. And then our base cube here. I'm going to hide the other one. And I'm holding in shift and selecting them both. And then we're going to use the slice or subtraction operation here. So here you can see a preview of what that slice would look like within the item. So now we have that subtraction, and when you apply it, what it will do is it'll get rid of this boolean and essentially create boolean 2, which is now going to be the cube with those slices inside of it. So I'll go ahead and apply and edit. There we go. Now we have this beautiful slice that is to the correct size and dimensions, and we can just compare the two there. So the next one is this rectangle here for the area for the light switch. So to create that, let's grab a cube and just click and drag here, pull it in, and I'm going to zoom in a little bit so that I can get nice clean cuts. I'm going to get rid of these corners, and I'm just going to position it right around there. And if you hold in Alt or Option, you can change both sides by selecting like this. Or if you just drag one side, it'll go in that direction. Or again, if you're using this tool here, it does it in both directions. So I'm just going to make it a little bit larger in each direction so that it fills up that space. Beautiful. Now we have that spot for the light switch. And then I'm going to rotate down, and I'm holding in the Option key and clicking and dragging. And I'm going to move this to where it's all the way, to where it's all the way down and through. So I could just do this, make a nice tall one. That way we know for sure it's going to make that cut. And then let's go ahead and show our light switch that we're working on. And we're going to, with our cube selected, hold in shift and select that boolean. And let's make a subtraction. There we go. Now we have our basic shape there. Alrighty, look at that. It's coming together really well. Awesome. So I'll go ahead and apply and edit. And let's call this just base light switch cover. That way we know which one we're working on. Cool. So we have that shape. And now what we also need to do is create this kind of cut that goes down and towards like an angle. So you could create the angle cut, or you could instead just create like a rectangle cut, and that way you can use a little bit less filament. So to do that, what I'll do is I'm going to show this one, and I'm going to grab another cube to use as a slice, and going from the corner here, I'm going to drag it down to close to the other corner. I'd like to have some even space between the sides, so I'll make sure that it's centered with that object, both vertically and horizontally. Alright. And let's make it red again so that we know exactly where that cut is going to happen. Ooh, that's really bright. Okay, that'll work. And this time we need to make it quite a bit smaller and make sure it doesn't fill up the whole area. So let's go to about there. And it looks like it might be... it has these rounded corners, and that was throwing me off. So let's go ahead and remove those rounded corners. And let's pull this up to where we have that more even spacing all the way around the light switch. And now what we'll do is we'll move this cube down into our current boolean, and make sure that you check out the bottom and that it's not going all the way through, but you do need some space there. So let's bring it down a little bit further. There we go. And then from there, while this is selected, I'm just going to copy that name again, and I did that by double clicking into the layer, copying. So let's select these two with Shift key, and again make a subtraction. And there we go. Now we have a light switch, and make sure to apply and edit that union. Something also that's pretty nice in Spline is you can oftentimes preview what it would look like if you were to adjust the way that that cut was going all the way through. So it's pretty nice to have that live preview of what a slice would look like. Let's go ahead and select that boolean, apply and edit, and just rename it. There we go. Now we have a light switch cover, and that was just in about 10 minutes or so. So now, once this is done and ready, I already know that it should be about the exact size as this one that I was basing it off of. And so what I'll do is I'll delete this base element, as you don't want that to export. Even if you hide an element in Spline, when you go to export as an STL, it's going to export all the objects. So make sure that you delete any of the solid objects, even if they're hidden, if you don't want them to show up. And what I'll often do is I'll delete it if I have a reference one, and then export as an STL, and let's call it light switch demo. And then I'll just press Command Z real quick if I want to get that demo file back. So I just click that a few times, and that way I can quickly go and base it off of there. So next step, we're going to hop into Cura, and within Cura I have a Neptune 3 Pro profile set up, and I have generic PLA selected, and I'm using some normal 0.2 millimeter settings. So you could just keep it directly here at 0.2. And infill, typically you're going to stay between anywhere from 5% to probably a max of 25%. It's pretty rare to go above that. It ends up being more of a waste to film it. And so what we'll do here is let's go ahead and load up that STL that we just made. I think, let me grab that 1 second. There we go. So I'm grabbing that, and I dropped it in, and that actually looks really small. So what I'll do is I will also upload the one that I downloaded earlier so that I can compare the two as far as sizing goes. So I've dropped that now on the plate, and let's go ahead and close this. And now what I need to do, is I need to set which area is the bottom of this one, and also size it appropriately. So with that file selected, you'll go to the rotate tool, and then you'll use the select face to align the build plate function. And with that on, you can just click on any side and choose which one will be the bottom that sits on the build plate, just like that. Cool. Then let's select this one, and let's check on its exact sizing. So it looks like it's 70 millimeters in the X direction. So I'm going to copy that and select this one and make sure that uniform scaling is turned on, and change this to 70. And that way it has those exact dimensions set on it. And within Cura, if you either right click or double click and click and drag, that's how you move around. Or you can hold in the shift key to move the whole bed around while you're clicking and dragging. And you can zoom in and out either with the mouse or with pinch to zoom function. So now I know that this is the exact size that I'd like it to be. So we can get rid of this reference file we're using. And then last step but not least, make sure that you do indeed have a flat surface, and it will show up in all blue. And it's really important to not have any kind of hangovers, otherwise you'll need supports while printing, but with this one we don't need any. So let's go ahead and slice it. I'm going to go and change some print settings here. I'll keep the 0.2 millimeter, but let's go into custom and scroll up to the top. So I have a 0.2 millimeter layer height that I'm printing with. I have 3 walls, so that's the perimeter for anything that you're printing. 3 is a pretty typical number. If you go below that, it often becomes transparent. You can see through your print. Or if you go above that, it makes it stronger. And let's keep scrolling down. And see, top and bottom layers, we have an option of 5. But yeah, 5 layers will work great for this. It's probably going to be fairly solid because it's such a small piece. And keep on scrolling down. Make sure that your material settings are aligned with what's recommended. There are a ton of different material options in here that you can select from, or you can upload your own. But oftentimes generic will work just fine. So the only setting that I really want to change here is that infill percentage. And the nice thing is that you can search. So I'll go to infill and scroll to the top. So change that infill density. I'd probably go with like 10% on this. And then let's go ahead and slice. So it started that slice process. Wow, that was fast. Let's click on preview. And what this does is it gives us a live preview, or not a live preview, but a preview of what each and every layer of your print will look like. And so I can see that it has 1, 2, 3, 4 layers, and then it starts building out that wall. And it goes all the way up. And there we go. Now we have a light switch designed, and we can save this to our disk. So you'll typically save as G-code from here. If you're to save your file, it's going to save as a 3MF file, and printers read G-code, so that's what will be created when I save it. So you can name your file down here for what will show up. So let's call this light switch demo, and I'm going to just save that to my disk, and you'll see that it saves as G-code, but there are options to save it as 3MF, STL, or other or OBJ files. But let's save it as G-code, and that's what you would put on your SD card, load up to the printer, and print it. So yeah, today we went through creating this light switch using the subtraction feature in Spline, and then preparing the file for printing. But please let me know if you have any questions, or if there's anything that could be clear. I'm more than happy to help. Hope you have a wonderful day. Thank you so much.